There are decisions we make in seconds that can change our entire life. There are words we speak without thinking, yet they leave deep marks. And there are paths that seem right at first, but in the end they lead to pain. That is why, more than ever, we need wisdom. The book of Proverbs is a treasure of divine guidance for everyday life. It was not written merely to pass on knowledge, but to shape our character, strengthen our hearts, and teach us how to live righteously before God. Within its chapters, we discover eternal direction on how to live wisely, speak with prudence, make the right choices, and walk with a heart aligned to God's will. Perhaps you are searching for exactly this: clarity in the midst of confusion, peace in the middle of pressure, and discernment in difficult times. Proverbs is like a lamp shining on the path, showing the safe road of faith. If this message speaks to your heart, like the video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment so that more lives may be blessed through this word. Today, we will dive into 23 powerful lessons from Proverbs, lessons that can renew your mind, strengthen your faith, and transform your walk with God. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Wisdom begins with God. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7. True wisdom does not begin with books, experience, or human intelligence. It begins with God. Proverbs teaches us that the fear of the Lord is the foundation of all spiritual and practical understanding. To fear the Lord is not to be afraid, but to reverence Him, recognizing His authority and trusting in His ways. When we place God at the center, our choices become safer, our words more prudent, and our hearts more steadfast. Many seek knowledge, but reject divine instruction, and that leads them into confusion. Biblical wisdom is living according to the Lord's will, even when the world offers shortcuts. Those who honor God in secret receive guidance in public. The fear of the Lord opens doors of discernment and protects the soul. Lesson 2. Trust God and let Him guide your paths. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy paths. Proverbs 3:5-6. How many times have we tried to control everything with our own logic, only to end up frustrated? Proverbs calls us to fully trust in the Lord. This means surrendering our plans, fears, and decisions to God, even when we do not understand the road ahead. Our understanding is limited, but God sees the end from the beginning. The Word also teaches us to acknowledge Him in all our ways, not only in times of crisis. God desires to be present in every detail of our lives, guiding our choices and daily steps. When we place the Lord first, He makes crooked paths straight, brings clarity, and leads us with confidence. True faith is resting in the perfect direction of the Father. Lesson 3. The Lord corrects those He loves, for whom the Lord loveth He correcteth, even as a father, the son in whom He delighteth. Proverbs 3:12. Proverbs teaches us that God's correction is not rejection, but love. Just as a father disciplines his child out of care, the Lord corrects us to protect us and help us grow. Many times, rebuke is painful, but it produces the fruit of righteousness and spiritual maturity. This lesson reminds us that God does not abandon us in our mistakes. He guides us back to the right path. Divine discipline is a sign that we belong to Him. Those who love the Lord learn to receive correction with humility. Wisdom is understanding that correction does not destroy, it builds. God corrects because He desires our good and our future in peace. Lesson 4. Do not withhold good. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. Proverbs 3:27. Proverbs teaches us that doing good is a spiritual responsibility. When we have the opportunity to help, serve, or bless someone, we should not delay or hold back. God calls us to be channels of kindness. Many times, a small act can become the answer to someone else's prayer. This lesson reminds us that generosity is not only a human gesture, but a reflection of God's character. If it is in our hands to do good, we must act promptly. The wise understand that good should not be postponed. God honors those who live with compassion and readiness to serve. Lesson 5. The heart must be guarded. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Proverbs 4:23. Proverbs gives us one of the most important pieces of advice in the Bible. Guard your heart. This means protecting your thoughts, desires, and emotions, because everything we do flows from within. If the heart becomes corrupted, our paths will also be led astray. That is why God calls us to watch over what we allow to enter: words, influences, feelings, and temptations. A heart guarded by the Word remains steadfast. This lesson reminds us that spiritual life begins on the inside. When we care for the heart, we preserve faith, peace, and direction. The Lord desires a pure heart because out of it flow the issues of life. Lesson 6. Do not delay what must be done. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Proverbs 6:6. The ant becomes a powerful example of perseverance. Though small, it works, prepares, and does not waste time. This call is a direct warning against spiritual and practical procrastination. Sloth is not simply rest, but carelessness and a lack of responsibility. Wisdom is acting at the right time, seizing opportunities, and building the future with discipline. Diligence protects us from need and regret. Those who keep delaying lose important chances, but those who walk with effort and prudence will prosper. The Lord blesses the willing heart and the work done with faithfulness. Lesson 7. Diligent work brings provision. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. Proverbs 10:4. Diligence is honored by God. Laziness leads to lack, but faithful effort produces fruit. This is not only about material wealth, but about a life built with responsibility and wisdom. The diligent person works with consistency, even when no one is watching, and the Lord blesses that path. Work is an instrument of provision, but also of purpose. God desires that we be faithful in small tasks, because through them He shapes our character. The diligent hand is a sign of discipline and commitment. Those who work with honesty and dedication will reap results in due time and live with dignity before the Lord. Lesson 8. The righteous walk in integrity. He that walketh uprightly walketh surely, but he that perverteth his ways shall be known. Proverbs 10:9. Integrity is a path of safety. Proverbs teaches that those who live sincerely, without masks or deceit, walk firmly and are protected. Honesty before God and before others brings peace to the heart. But the one who twists his ways lives in fear of being exposed. Lies always produce insecurity, but truth brings strength. God delights in an upright heart, even if it is not perfect. This lesson calls us to live with transparency and faithfulness, knowing that the Lord sees all things. Those who walk in righteousness do not need to fear tomorrow, for they walk under the light of God's presence. Lesson 9. The blessing of the Lord makes rich. The blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow with it. Proverbs 10:22. The world seeks wealth with anxiety and restless effort, but Proverbs teaches that true prosperity comes from the blessing of the Lord. What God gives does not bring heaviness, guilt, or destruction. God's blessing enriches in a complete way, with peace, joy, purpose, and provision. This lesson reminds us that it is not worth gaining the whole world and losing the soul. The Lord desires to supply his children, but he also wants us to live with contentment and trust. When we put the Lord first, he takes care of what we need. The blessing of God is sufficient, and it is never accompanied by sorrow. Lesson 10. God honors a generous heart. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. Proverbs 11:25. Generosity is a principle of the kingdom of God. Proverbs teaches that those who bless others will also be blessed. God sees every act of care, every hand extended, and every heart willing to help. The generous soul prospers not only in possessions, but in joy, peace, and purpose. This lesson reminds us that we were not called to live closed in on ourselves, but to share with others. Those who care for the needy reflect the love of the Lord, and God promises the one who gives will also receive. Generosity opens spiritual doors and causes the heart to flourish in gratitude. Lesson 11. The Lord hates lying. Lying lips are abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. Proverbs 12:22. Proverbs teaches us that God deeply values truth. A lie may seem small in human eyes, but before the Lord it is an abomination, because it destroys trust and corrupts the heart. God is a God of truth, and his children are called to reflect that character. Faithfulness, on the other hand, is the Lord's delight. This lesson invites us to live with integrity, even when it would be easier to hide or distort reality. Truth may cost something, but it always brings freedom. Those who walk in faithfulness please God and build a firm path. Lies imprison, but truth honors the Lord. Lesson 12. Diligent work produces fruit. In all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. Proverbs 14:23. Proverbs values diligence. God honors faithful effort and well-done work. Those who only speak but do not act reap scarcity. This lesson teaches us that wisdom is also responsibility. The Lord desires that we be consistent, dedicated, and productive. Work is a means of provision, but also a testimony. When we do everything with excellence, we glorify God. Diligence opens doors, while laziness closes paths. Lesson 13. A gentle answer brings peace. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. Proverbs 15:1. Proverbs teaches us that the way we respond can completely change a situation. A gentle word has the power to calm conflict and bring peace, while a harsh answer fuels arguments and causes wounds. This lesson calls us to self-control and to the meekness of Christ. Winning a conversation is not always the most important thing. Sometimes wisdom is found in protecting the heart. God desires that our words be instruments of reconciliation. When we choose to respond with calmness, we show spiritual maturity. A controlled tongue is a sign of wisdom and grace. Lesson 14. The Lord directs our steps. A man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. Proverbs 16:9. Making plans is natural, but Proverbs reminds us that the final direction comes from the Lord. Many times we imagine one path, but God leads us through another, one that is better. He sees what we cannot see and knows what we truly need. This lesson teaches us to plan with humility and to depend on God's will. When we surrender our steps to the Lord, He adjusts our course, closes doors, and opens paths we never would have imagined. Even when we do not understand, God is guiding. Trusting in that brings rest. The Father does not lead His children by chance, but with purpose. Those who submit to the Lord's direction walk securely, even in uncertain times. Lesson 15. Pride goes before a fall. Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. Proverbs warns us about one of the greatest dangers of the soul: pride. Pride causes a person to trust in himself and forget that everything depends on God. Before a fall, there is often a proud heart, one that refuses correction and does not recognize its limits. Pride closes the ears to instruction and hardens the spirit. But God honors the humble and resists the proud. This lesson calls us to watch over our hearts and remember that all strength, talent, and achievement come from the Lord. Humility keeps us standing firm, while arrogance makes us vulnerable. Those who humble themselves before God will be lifted up in due time. Lesson 16. Patience is better than strength. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. Proverbs 16:32. The world admires the strong, but God exalts the patient. Proverbs teaches that controlling anger is a greater victory than conquering a city. True strength is found in self-control. Those who easily explode reveal inner weakness, but those who are slow to anger demonstrate wisdom and spiritual maturity. This lesson calls us to respond with calmness and faith, not with impulsive reactions. God desires that we be governed by the Spirit, not by emotions. Patience preserves relationships, prevents sin, and reflects the character of Christ. The wise person first wins the battle within before winning anything outside. Lesson 17. Silence is also wisdom. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. Proverbs 17:28. Proverbs reveals a simple truth. Knowing when to remain silent is a sign of wisdom. Many times we speak too much and regret it later. Silence can prevent conflict, preserve relationships, and show maturity. Even a fool, when he keeps quiet, appears wise, because prudence is found in controlling the tongue. This lesson teaches us that not every opinion needs to be spoken, and not every answer must be immediate. God calls us to listen more and speak less. The wise choose their words carefully and understand that silence can be a form of peace. Those who rule their lips also rule their heart. Lesson 18. The tongue has the power of life. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Proverbs 18:21. The words that come from our mouths carry spiritual weight. Proverbs declares that the tongue can produce life or death. One word can lift up someone who is discouraged or destroy a wounded heart. That is why God calls us to speak with prudence. Those who love to talk without control will reap bitter fruit, but those who use words with wisdom spread healing, peace, and hope. This lesson reminds us that speaking is an act of responsibility. We must ask the Lord to govern our mouths, so that our words may be a blessing and not a stumbling block. The tongue reveals the heart, and a heart filled with God speaks life. Lesson 19. The wise listen and learn, hear counsel and receive instruction, that thou mayest be wise in thy latter end. Proverbs 19:20. Wisdom is not only found in speaking, but in listening. Proverbs teaches us that those who receive counsel and correction become wise over time. Many reject correction out of pride, but the wise understand that God uses people, experiences, and His word to shape our character. Listening to advice is a sign of humility and spiritual maturity. This lesson invites us to have a teachable heart, willing to grow. God honors those who allow themselves to be corrected because it prevents future mistakes and strengthens the path. Those who learn today will reap wisdom tomorrow. Lesson 20. The righteous may fall, but they rise again. For a just man falleth 7 times, and riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. Proverbs 24:16. The walk of the righteous does not mean a life without struggles or falls, but a life sustained by the grace of God. Even someone who fears the Lord may fail, feel weak, or stumble in difficult moments, but the difference is found in the comeback. The righteous do not remain down because God lifts them up. Falling is not the end of the story. The end comes only when one refuses to rise again. This word brings hope to those who feel they have failed too many times. The Lord renews strength, restores faith, and offers mercy to continue forward. The wicked stumble into evil because they walk far from God. But those who trust in the Lord will always find a new beginning. Lesson 21. A word spoken at the right time is precious. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pictures of silver. Proverbs 25:11. Proverbs teaches that the right word at the right moment is extremely valuable. Like a rare jewel, a good word can bring healing, direction, and comfort. God uses words to lift discouraged hearts and strengthen the weak. This lesson calls us to speak with wisdom, not impulsively. What we say may not always be wrong, but it can be spoken at the wrong time. The wise wait for the proper moment and choose their words with grace. A word spoken in season can change a day, restore a friendship, or reignite hope. May the Lord teach us to use our mouths as instruments of life and blessing. Lesson 22. Envy is an inner evil. Wrath is cruel and anger is outrageous, but who is able to stand before envy? Proverbs 27:4. Proverbs reveals that envy is a silent poison. It destroys from within, creates comparisons, and steals peace. Anger may be explosive, but envy is constant and corrosive. This lesson calls us to guard our hearts against this dangerous feeling. God created each of us with a unique purpose, and comparing ourselves to others only brings suffering. Wisdom is learning to celebrate the good in others and to trust in the Lord's timing. Envy prevents gratitude and feeds bitterness. When we surrender our desires to God, He purifies the heart and teaches us contentment. The wise find joy in what the Lord has given them. Lesson 23. Trusting in yourself is a danger. He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool, but whoso walketh wisely, he shall be delivered. Proverbs 28:26. Trusting only in our own feelings and thoughts can lead us down dangerous paths. The human heart is unstable and often deceptive, especially when guided by pride or impulse. True security is not found in following what seems right, but in walking in wisdom and seeking God's direction. This lesson is a call to humility, recognizing that we need the Lord in order to make right decisions. Those who trust in themselves can easily become lost, but those who walk in wisdom find deliverance. God guides the steps of those who submit to His word. When we place the Lord at the center, He leads us with peace and guards us in every choice along the way. As we come to the end of these lessons from the book of Proverbs, it becomes clear that God's wisdom remains a powerful light for our days. Each teaching reminds us that living with prudence, reverence for the Lord, and a heart aligned with His will is the safest path to a steady and blessed life. Proverbs is not merely a book of ancient advice, but a living guide for the decisions, words, relationships, and choices we make every single day. May these lessons have renewed your mind, strengthened your faith, and brought clarity to your walk with God. And if any of these words spoke to your heart in a special way, I want to invite you to share in the comments. Which lesson touched you the most? Or how was this video a blessing in your life? Your testimony may encourage others who also need to hear this message. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs wisdom and direction. May the Lord bless you, keep you, and guide you in every step of your journey. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. Remain steadfast, always seeking the wisdom that comes from above. See you in the next video.